Hey folks, what's up? Sorry to be a few minutes late. It is one of those days. So I will plaster this smile on my face in a larger way than normal. Ah, it's everything's great. I feel like that's gonna be the motto for like the end times, which we're in. We're we're adjacent to, I'd say. But I think that I think the motto is going to be it's going to be this is how humanity is going to, or at least America is going to face the end times. It's going to be we say, it's one of those days. And we can say that more and more until every day is just, it's one of those days. And then eventually, so whatever AI mechanism takes over the globe 200 years from now and looks back on this time, when they look in the history books, you'll just read, well, it turned out it was one of those days for many days in a row. It was one of those days. And then there were no more days. It was just too many one of those days. That's going to be the AI analysis of our times. Too many one of those days. So thanks for joining me. The reason I titled this one "This Is How It Ends" is because so something that I talk about a fair amount, but you won't hear from a lot of the even independent media, is that at the heart of most of our problems, in fact, I'd say 96% of our problems, the other 4% being Stephen Baldwin, but all the rest, capitalism is at the heart of it. And so I often will mention that and talk about it and things like that. But so there's this great article, which I'm going to get into later, which is like the 43 or 45 ways that capitalism is unredeemable. And I'm going to go through those, but not all today. I'm going to do a little at the end of each episode going into the future. I don't know how many of a multi-part series this will be, but it basically at the end of each episode, I will try and do at least one of these, and we'll get through all 43 ways that capitalism is unredeemable. And honestly, I think that's what the author titles it, but I think unredeemable is kind of her name's Miki Kashtan, and I'll show you the article and everything. But so it's gonna be a multi-part series. It's gonna go on for several weeks probably, and we'll get into each one, going through all 43 or 45 or whatever it is, and by the end of it, I'd be very surprised if you're like, yeah, no, capitalism is still great. It's still wonderful, and it still equals me getting to pay for a hand job on a Tuesday at 4 a.m. when, I got nothing better to do, and it cheers me up. But there's a lot more to it than just your cheap hand job. So, but now that I explained that, I have several videos I want to show you and about what's going on right now. One of them, I'm going to call an audible and get into to what's going on with China and Pelosi's fucking insane trip, which I talked about before she left, but now she's gone, and it's as bad as it could have been without a nuclear war, which is pretty bad. It's pretty fucking awful what she caused, and I think we need to get into that. So she goes over there, and this is from Politico, which is a total liberal bullshit outlet. So this is not like the crazy lefty side of things, which, by the way, the lefty side of things is not crazy. But this is from Politico. China cancels talks with the U.S. on military issues and climate change over Pelosi's Taiwan visit. Okay, what are the two things that you think we should want China to discuss with us, to be at the table with us? What are the two things that if we want to live more than a few more years, we should want to be communicating with China about? Oh, I'd say probably nuclear weapons and fucking war and climate change. Those are the two things. So now Pelosi has succeeded in fucking stopping diplomacy, the one thing that could actually save us from this shit, this shit storm. The one thing that could actually save us is diplomacy, is sitting down at the table and these fucking sociopaths going, I don't like it when you do this and you don't like it when I do that, but let's come to an agreement and da 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 da. Them sitting down and coming to a peaceful negotiation on those two issues, and Pelosi has put a stop to them. Pelosi, and of course, this is the entire Biden administration. Pompeo said he would go with her. I don't know if he ended up going or not, but this is our entire political structure. So yes, Pelosi's the face of this thing. Pelosi is the old leftovers macaroni cheese with mold face of this. Of what's happening, but it's our whole political system. There's very few that are speaking out in the correct way against her trip. Now, there's some right-wingers who are like, it shouldn't be Pelosi that's destroying all diplomacy on climate change and military. It should be a Republican that's destroying all communication on climate change and military. So, yes, there's some right wingers saying that, but that doesn't really count as being opposed to this fucking ridiculous clusterfuck. Let's look a little at the article. China on Friday, and of course, I'm sure this will come with a healthy dose of propaganda from Politico. Politico, enjoy your news with a strong dose of propaganda. China on Friday halted its relations with the U.S. on a range of issues, including talks on climate change and military ties and retaliation for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan this week. And by the way, I covered it last week. In case you were curious, Taiwan is part of China. You can want them to be separate. You can want, there's rebels that are in Taiwan. You could say, I want them to cause regime change. If you're a psychopath, you can be up for all that. But you can't deny that Taiwan is part of China. It's both part of China according to China. It's part of China according to the Taiwanese government. It's part of China according to something like 180 out of 193 nations around the globe. And traditionally, it's been part of China according to the United States. So you can, have a hissy fit about, I want it to be something else. Okay, that's fine. Have your hissy fit, but it's part of China. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. It's like, to give it a positive spin. I'm being generous to those of you out there who were unaware that Taiwan was part of China. To give it a kind of positive spin, it'd be like if you if you don't eat meat and you believe that no one should eat meat. Okay, that can be a thing you can believe, but walking around and going, no one's eating meat. There's no one in the world eating meat right now. That's just lunacy. You're just fucking moron. So walking around right now going, Taiwan's not part of China and good for Pelosi. That's you're just a fucking idiot. You're just dumb. So anyway, to continue, China on Friday halted its relations to the U.S. on a range of issues, including talks on climate change and military ties and retaliation. The countermeasures highlight the increasing tensions between the U.S. and China since Pelosi decided to go through with her trip to Taiwan on an island republic that China claims as part of its territory. Yeah, there's Politico propaganda for you. Not saying an island republic that is part of China, which is the truth. Instead, they're like an island republic that China claims. I mean, this honestly, that's the equivalent of instead of calling Hawaii a state in the United States, calling it an area the U.S. claims. I mean, yeah, we definitely stole Hawaii, but as of right now, it's part of the United States. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Even the Hawaiian government at the moment says it's part of the United States. But I mean, anyway, this is, as I've tried to make clear, like the worst case scenario of them fucking ending discussions on climate change. Like, we are in a make or break, like 5-year span. I mean, honestly, in many ways, we're already past the break point, but I guess it's how broken do you want it to be? We have broken the planet, but how broken do you want it? People are in places that never before, 10 years ago saw a day over 80 degrees are now living in 97 degrees, and they have cooling stations located around their town to survive. There's places in India where people are melting to the street, and I'm not even kidding. I covered it. It was like last summer. There were places in India where the asphalt had gotten so hot that people's flip-flops, or whatever they call them over there, thongs, I don't know what they call them, but their little shoes were melting to the street. So people couldn't cross like larger street. They were like getting glued to the. There was a moment in whatever that insane volcano movie from the 90s was, starring I think Tommy Lee Jones and like Anne Heche or something, and a guy jumps out to save someone, and he jumps into lava, and so he saves the baby or the person or whatever, but his legs just melt away as he does it. And he's like, ah, and he saves the person, but he dies. It was like a self-sacrifice thing. And that's what they're doing in India. They're trying to cross the road, and they're like, ah, and you just see their legs just melt up. It's like, anyway, we're getting to that point, and Pelosi felt it was more important to make a U.S. propaganda fucking new Cold War, fucking brink of nuclear war, fucking neoliberal point by going to Taiwan and only meeting with like rebel factions. She thought that was a better point to make than to sit down with China, the world's largest country and biggest economy, or they're on par with us now, second biggest economy, according to who you ask, rather than sitting down with them and coming to some things we could do to have a livable future. Call me crazy. I want the livable future. Call me fucking nuts. I'd like to continue to have the living time. Oh, crazy, I know. And they're not just neoliberal fascist assholes. They're also just, they have dementia. They're soup for brains. These people, her, Biden, Trump, they're all fucking shuffling around, soup for brains, and you're like, what? These are our leaders? Okay, great. Neoliberal soup for brains is really leading us to a great place. Other countermeasures announced Friday by China include the cancellation of dialogue with the U.S. between regional commanders and on defense policy coordination, which is like how you avoid nuclear accidents, defense policy coordination. Military maritime safety, again, how you avoid nuclear accidents. Just the other day, I covered on this show how we now have water drones, like literally boat drones that go across the ocean. They also ceased talking about returning illegal immigrants, criminal matters, transnational crime, illegal drugs, and climate change. Oh, just everything. They're just not speaking to us anymore about everything. Okay, great. Thank you, Pelosi. Hashtag thank you, Pelosi. Thank you for doing that. You really helped things out here. Who are the idiots that support this shit? All right, I'm next going to play a clip Yes, it's from Fox News. Yes, it's from Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a racist piece of shit. However, he's interviewing a general and this guy, I've played clips from him, Greg Norman. I've played clips from him before, and he's one of the few former U.S. military speaking sense about Ukraine, about China, and he's coming from a different angle I am. I want to see us a world that cooperates with each other. He wants isolationism. He wants the United States. He thinks the United States would be better if we just fucking cut off other countries and be our own thing. And so he's coming from a different place than I am, but he's still speaking the truth on these matters. So I want to play a clip from him. And by the way, in another 10 minutes or so, this stream will become only rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to watch there. There is no charge. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. So join me over there in a minute. And if you're watching over there already, nothing changes. This stream just continues. But if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, all those, then this will only be at rumble.com/Lee Camp in a few minutes. But let's continue. This is from Tucker Carlson, Fox News. And Tucker Carlson also isolationist, basically. But on domestic policy, he's a racist piece of shit. Anyway. And, I can, if people need that to be explained to him where Tucker Carlson stands, I can spend time on that. I don't know how much you really need that. I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory, but.
To understand something that no one has bothered to tell them. That during World War II, Taiwan was the unsinkable aircraft carrier of the Imperial Japanese Armed Forces. All the major invasions of China were launched from Taiwan. Beijing will not allow Taiwan to become a garrison state for American armed forces or Japanese armed forces or any foreign power.
I'm gonna keep playing the rest of that, but I just wanted to pause for a second and say, what he's saying is just like with Ukraine, Russia said Ukraine was a red line for them. They could not have their national security and have NATO on their border, have Nazis on their border, have Nazis killing, harming, arresting, imprisoning culturally Russian people on their border. But specifically NATO. NATO cannot encircle them. You could not fire missiles from Ukraine into Russia, precision missiles to hit them. So Russia had said over and over and over again that Ukraine is a red line for them, and yet we did it anyway. And now we see the results. We see the proxy war that has taken place. So that's where Ukraine was, and this general is saying exactly the same thing about Taiwan for China. Taiwan's not just we kind of like having this other island. It's kind of neat. Did you know they sell trinkets that you can collect over there? They're so cute, like baubles and stuff. No, it's not that. This guy's saying that in the past, Taiwan acted as a unsinkable aircraft carrier against mainland China. And so China, for their security, and you can hate that China has any national security, but I'm just telling you the reality of their situation from their view. From their view, their national security is contingent on Taiwan not being another country. So they will not allow this. They would never allow this. And in fact, I covered on Government Secrets, my other podcast, I covered it this week, that we almost had a nuclear exchange over Taiwan in the past. Like, that's how in the 1950s, late 1950s, that's how important Taiwan is to them. But let's get to the rest of what he says. But I just wanted to make sure that was clear, what he was saying.
And if they think that we are going to ally ourselves with Taiwan, if they think we are going to intervene to defend that island in the event of a dispute, then we will be at war with China for the reasons that I just outlined. And we are not prepared for that. We are grossly overstretched. We don't have the logistical infrastructure. And frankly, there's an old adage that everyone should remember: a ship's a fool to fight a fort. You have to fight China from the sea. We can't win that. China can absorb everything we throw at it. And the Chinese are happy to sit there, let us travel thousands of miles to reach them, and then sink us.
So another important point, and this is why I like to get this type of view from a military veteran who has a very different view on the world than I do. Like, I wouldn't discuss how to successfully go to war with China, but in his mind, he just wants America to win every war. And so he's thinking about how can America best win a war if we were to do one. And his point is, against China, we can't. And that's the position. So we need to understand that if we think that we're going to start firing some, missiles and, encircling China with missiles and using Taiwan as a base to attack mainland China. His point is not going to fucking happen, and we would lose that battle. Now, I don't speak like that because I'm anti-war, so I would be against all of that. But I think it's important to get a kind of another perspective that also thinks that we fucking shouldn't be doing this and that Pelosi's out of her mind. Pelosi and the entire government structure, including the Republicans that supported this insane fucking theater. But I think that's an important point to get. And I can't remember what confused Tucker Carlson says here, but I'll play it in a second. But I always love how everything Tucker Carlson does, whether he's agreeing or disagreeing with the guy, he just has a look on his face like, I don't understand what is happening. He has a furrowed brow, just like, what? I don't understand. And then he goes on to spout his, garbage. Now, some of which I agree with it on foreign policy, as probably his next statement I'll probably agree with. But I just always love it, especially when he has like a leftist on or somebody who's even remotely left wing, even like a Democrat, which isn't even left wing. But he has someone like, whenever they're speaking, he's just going, he just sits there with that face, which is a technique I've never tried. I've never, have a guest on and then while they're speaking, you're just going, but, I've never tried it.
This is, I don't know why every show on TV is not covering this right now. This seems like one of the craziest things that's happened in my lifetime. Do you have any speculation and guess as to why the Biden administration would want this? Well,
I love and here's the thing is he's not that dumb. He knows enough about this stuff. Now, granted, he may not be smart enough or read the right things to know the truth, which is that the American empire is waning. We have to alienate the Russia-China economic. We're in a great economic split. Russia, China on one half, U.S. and all our feudal states on the other. And we're trying to split them up and alienate them so that they can't have that economic collaboration that then creates this multipolar world. We want a unipolar world of American hegemony. And you'd think Tucker Carlson probably knows that, but I don't know.
So the Biden administration and its predecessors, frankly, treated everything that the Russian government said for the last 15 years about Ukraine with complete contempt. They're repeating that process. We see how well that's worked out in Ukraine. The Russians were always serious. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost in this war in Ukraine that we should have acted quickly to stop. Now we're provoking the Chinese over an issue that is at least as strategically important to them.
So there you go. He didn't actually, because you know the thing I just said about the waning empire, great economic split. Maybe he doesn't understand it either, or hasn't read the right things. But he didn't actually give a reason for why they're doing it. He just said they've ignored every warning on Ukraine for 15 years. Now they're ignoring warnings from China, and they're doing the exact same thing and wandering into the fire like idiots. But anyway, he makes a good point that they ignore these warnings because part of it is because they're getting high off their own stash. All right, their own stash of ego. There is a large group in the U.S. ruling class that is high off their own stash, thinks that America is completely unstoppable in all ways, that America is exceptionally the best at everything. We have the biggest, most powerful military. We got the biggest, best economy. And so we should just be able to tell every country what to do when we don't like it. But we're increasingly not in that world. And he's absolutely right about that, that we're ignoring those warnings. And part of it is ego, hubris, and all that good stuff. I want to play real quick before I cut off the other streams, and this just goes to rumble.com/Lee Camp. I want to play Roger Waters pretty much destroying a CNN anchor. And this is one of these truly horrific garbage CNN anchors, full-on propaganda trash. And Roger Waters, many of you know him, founder of Pink Floyd, lead singer, writer, also one of the top echelon celebrities, one of the most incredible, like politically correct. And I don't mean politically correct, the term. I mean, he is correct about his politics more than like any other, you know, it's like him, Susan Sarandon, and I don't even like, is there anyone else? I don't even know. You know, Viggo Mortensen's pretty good, but on that top echelon, it's like Roger Waters alone, just walking alone up there. You know, Jesse Ventura. Although actually Jesse has some weird politics sometimes. I'm friends with Jesse Ventura. He's a great guy, but you know, like he once said we should only be anyway. That's a tangent. That's a huge tangent. Anyway, let's get into Roger Waters. And I've done a show with Roger Waters one time where I was a Free Assange show, and great guy. But here is him just destroying. Max Blumenthal retweeted this. But here is Roger Waters just obliterating this CNN anchor.
Well, he's fueling the fire in the Ukraine for a start. That is a huge crime. Why won't the United States of America encourage Zelensky, the president, to negotiate, obviating the...
I just want to pause there because this is a massive point that CNN will not mention. Why is the U.S. and Britain, as our proxy, not telling Ukraine to fucking go and end this thing? Sit down. Even if they come out and they say, oh, we don't have a deal, fucking at least have the conversations. Try and end this thing so that fewer people die, so that less of their society is just fucking decimated. How about that? How about that for step one? Huh? Just fucking just sit down and have the discussion to save lives, man. And CNN can't even say that. But so I wanted to make that clear that even just that sentence is so rare on CNN. So rare. So rare.
The need for this horrific, horrendous war that's killing
You're blaming.
We don't know how many Ukrainians.
But you're blaming the
are
party
Russians.
that got invaded.
Okay, now that's a straw man argument that the CNN is trying to undermine what Roger Waters is saying by, it's not quite changing the subject, but it's a straw man argument. You're blaming the victims. No, saying that they should sit down for, first of all, you can, if you go back far enough, Russia's the victims what led to this, the expansion of NATO, all that shit, the Maidan coup, the Nazis, I've done whole hours and hours on this shit. So I'm not getting into that. But even if you want to say that in the current skirmish, the Ukrainian government, because many Ukrainians are Russian and they consider themselves Russian and they have Russian passports and they speak Russian and they're trying to flee to Russia when they're allowed. So just saying Ukrainian is confusing, but the Ukrainian government stance is that he's trying to say that blaming the victims is what Roger Waters is doing. Roger Waters didn't blame anyone. He said they need to fucking sit down and end this thing. And by stopping the peace talks, by stopping the talks of how this is going to end, because guess what? One day, this will end with peace talks, of some kind. One day. Either that or nuclear annihilation. But let's say it doesn't go that far. Let's say it ends without nuclear annihilation. One day it will end with peace talks. The question is, do you want to have those now? Do you want to have those 2 months ago? Or do you want to have those 5 years from now and end up in a fucking Vietnam situation where we just kill as many people as we can and then we get out? Because that's what you're looking at. And yet we're trying to stop those discussions.
Come on, you've got it reversed.
That's any war. When did it start? What you need to do is look at the history, and you can say, well, it started on this day. You could say it started in 2008. Okay, this war is basically about the action and reaction of NATO pushing right up to the Russian border, which they promised they wouldn't do when Gorbachev negotiated the withdrawal of the USSR from the whole of Eastern Europe.
When you say this, then I have to say, what about our role as liberators? You of all people.
You have no role as liberators.
World War II? World War II? You
got into World War II because
Come on.
Pearl Harbor.
Hold on a second. He says, what about our role as liberators? And first of all, he had to go all the way back to World War II to come up with a war where we were the liberators. And even so, as Roger Waters is about to mention, Russia really won that war. Russia lost 23 million people fighting against the Nazis. And then the U.S. came in at the end after getting hit in Pearl Harbor and lost less than 500,000, less than 500,000, while Russia lost 23 million. And we claimed we were the liberators. We were the ones that won. And it's hilarious. But even so, let's say, yes, the U.S. was part of the liberating military in World War II. How many fucking years ago was that? Out of all the military engagements, sorry, someone's saying it's 26 million, 23 million, 26 million. What's a couple of million between friends? Either way, out of all the military engagements that we've had since World War II, none of them could this clown fucking point to and say we were the liberators. Fucking Vietnam, Korea, fucking Iraq again, Libya, Syria, Panama, like the fucking number of, and that's not even counting just the cooing we've done. That's just the time we've bombed shit. I mean, he could not point to anything. Ukraine, Afghanistan, our fucking failed violent coup attempts in Venezuela. He couldn't point to anything where we were the liberators except going back to World War II. That in itself is an admission by him that we are not fucking liberators anymore. We haven't been liberators in a long goddamn time. But let's keep playing.
Well, Pearl Harbor, you were completely isolationist until that's sad. That devastating.
I would argue we
awful
were
day
always going to get in, and that
1941.
pushed us in. But thank God the United States got in, right? You
Well,
lost your father in World War II. Thank God
Well,
the
yeah,
United
thank you,
States.
but
right?
thank God the Russians had already won the bloody war almost by then. Don't forget, 23 million Russians died protecting you and me from the Nazi menace.
Hey, and you would think the Russians would have learned their lesson from war and wouldn't have invaded Ukraine.
Well,
that's my favorite statement of the whole fucking thing. And I can't believe, I understand that in the heat of the moment, you don't always realize the correct way to refute just truly idiotic, just globally stupid statements. In the heat of the moment, like if I were sitting in Roger Waters' chair, I don't know that I would always, because you're just going. But the statement of, you would think Russia would have learned their lesson from war. How about the United States? How about the U.S. learning our lesson from war? Huh? How about the fucking number of wars we've had just destroying lives? How about the fact that we pushed to create this proxy war? We haven't learned goddamn shit from war. Other than that, it's good for our economy. Other than that, it's a great money laundering scheme to enrich already ridiculously rich people. That's all we've learned from war. So the idea that he's saying Russia hasn't learned their lesson from war, the fucking U.S. hasn't learned our lesson from war because we just enrich ourselves with it. That's the real reason. Hey, folks, this live stream will continue right now at rumble.com/Lee Camp. Completely free to go and watch there. RUMBLE.com/Lee Camp. Join me there. Some of you are watching there already. The live streams will continue